Hello and welcome to UPSC Preparation Simplified, an initiative by RAU'S IS Study Circle where we try to solve the problems that you aspirants might be facing while preparing for the UPSC examination. Today, we are going to talk about the specific topic of science and technology, and we have the best person to talk about that. That is Mr. Akshay Vrat, sir, who teaches science and technology at RAU'S IS. Sir, welcome on board.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, UPSC mains has been conducted and GS Paper-3, in which science and technology is there. We could see good number of questions as well, especially from those topics which you have taught as well.
Yes.
So, sir, what is the first impression about the paper and how nice you feel when your questions are there in the paper as well?
So overall, I think the question paper was more or less predictable and simple. I think any student who has worked hard enough or with average level of preparation also would have found the question easy to attempt. I always tell students that the questions are mostly interdisciplinary, questions mostly have multifaceted aspects. This question paper fits into that definition perfectly.
Wonderful, sir. Now, sir, when I was looking at the questions, there were some questions which actually made me feel a little bothered as well. Especially the question which talked about cellulose. So when we talk about these questions appeal to be a little interdisciplinary in nature as well.
True.
At the same time, it is difficult to reflect answers in 150 or 250 words. So how one should actually approach these questions?
So this question particularly was a surprise. I believe last year also we have had that blue LED question, which was also a surprise in the similar way. Question on cellulose, I would believe that it is more or less related to general science, and it partly mostly it falls under biology, and partly it can be considered under ecology, environment as well. But this question particularly because it relates with the idea of decomposition of cellulose, how natural decomposition of cellulose takes place. So to put it in the framework of biology, biotechnology, I don't think that will justify the question.
Okay.
It will fall under the framework of energy, it will fall under the framework of ecology, natural decomposition and biology at the same time. So a student who has a little bit of understanding of all the three things and that they may find this answer easy to write. So like this question says that cellulose, which is produced across the surface, it's a complex kind of a carbohydrate which is produced by the primary producers plants, and most of the plants, they are producing cellulose in some way or the other through photosynthesis. So it's very obvious that every carbohydrate is made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So one can easily understand that carbohydrates, which is considered as the primary source or the quickest source of energy for biomass, so they will also be carrying a lot of energy. Energy capacity of cellulose will always be very high. So when you consider cellulose and its natural decomposition process, we can see cellulose getting naturally decomposed in multiple ways. We can see a natural bacterial decay of cellulose, hydrolysis of cellulose, where water breaks down the cellulose and with the help of bacteria and fungi. We see natural decomposition happening in the absence of air, anaerobic decomposition.
Of course.
We can see natural decomposition done by some animals called ruminant cattle. They try to break down complex cellulose. They are the only animals which can break down cellulose. So we see natural decomposition of cellulose happening around us in multiple ways. But when we try to answer these kind of questions, these are the kind of things that any random student would have answered. But UPSC would obviously ask for a different approach. UPSC would obviously expect a little substantiation of the answers. So I believe that students can take a hint here and they can relate it with biofuels. They can relate it with the ongoing changes. Even the government of India, they are promoting biofuels, Govardhan initiative and such things they can relate it with. So it is very much possible that you can relate cellulose with that of bioenergy, bioethanol, that we can break down the cellulose with the help of dark fermentation, with the help of artificial fermentation, yeast and such fungal agents. And we can break it into bioethanol. And then students can relate it with the possibilities of flexible fuel. We can relate it with the possibilities of, like quite recently, India's overall ethanol production has reached around 923 crore liters every year now. So it is showing that the government of India is also concentrating on it. And there is a very good aspect of consuming this bio waste into an energy source before getting it degraded directly into humus. So this makes a very simple idea about that how cellulose can be tackled and how this question on cellulose can be tackled particularly.
Sir, when we were talking off camera, you were also talking about the cycles. Various nutrient cycle can also be highlighted in this entire process.
Because this question demands almost 250 words. So in that case, when you are addressing a question like this, it is obviously better that a student is expected to write multifaceted aspects. So if you want to relate it with ecology, you can definitely mention the biogeochemical cycles that we see, or the nutrient cycles that we see, where cellulose being majorly made up of carbon. It can be part of carbon cycle. You can mention those kind of comments also in the answer. You can also relate it with the production, with the primary production capacity of a plant, that how the cellulose production capacity or productivity of a plant will vary from different ecosystem. You can mention those points also. So those are the things that will enrich the overall answer of a student.
But ultimately, we have to write everything within 250 words.
Yes,
so we have to use a lot of caution as well, I guess.
Sir, I believe that students should emphasize more on the keywords. If they have done a thorough study of the things, then they should keep the keywords in mind. And these keywords, they help the student or help the answer to appear that the student has done really good hard work in preparing for civil service exams. So using keywords like nutrient cycle, biogeochemical cycle, using keywords like energy, economics, carbon neutrality, these are the words that enrich the overall quality of the answer.
Yes, that's again, actually, it is not only important to write good answers, but also answers which appeal to the examiner as well.
Sir, exactly.
Wonderful.
True, sir.
Now, moving to one more question, for which I want to ask more, is James Webb Telescope.
Exactly.
So, sir, when I saw this question, I felt this question was very factual in nature. So, first and foremost, help me understand rather why this question was asked. What was the purpose of UPSC in asking this question?
So it's true that this question will prima facie, it will always appear to be very factual, because whatever things we write in the notes, UPSC have simply given all those things in the question itself. Like what is the objective of the mission, how it can help the human race and such things. So the question is definitely factual in nature. So if I talk about why this question has been asked, so I believe that this has been a very landmark achievement by, although it is a joint venture between NASA and European Space Agency, but I believe it's a very landmark achievement by all the space scientists, because for the first time, this kind of a telescope, this massive telescopes have been put up in space. It has already been delayed for almost 15 years because it was supposed to be launched in 2007 first, and it has been delayed in 2021 only we are able to launch it. So it shows that there's a lot of hard work has been put into building such a telescope of this nature. And why it was very essential, because the bigger the telescope, the farther we can see. Simple ideas here. So this nature of this kind of telescope has never been built before. There is something called aperture, which is helping the telescope to capture light from the farthest points. It is having the longest aperture, the biggest aperture so far, around 6.5 meters. And previously, before this James Webb Space Telescope, the predecessors of these telescopes were the Great Observatories program, where mostly Hubble Space Telescope and Spitzer are considered to be direct predecessor to this. Because technically James Webb Space Telescope is a primarily infrared telescope. It normally looks at the light which is of the lower energy spectrum, infrared rays. And when it comes to Hubble Space Telescope and Spitzer, they both were of the same compatibility, visible light and infrared. So that makes James Webb a direct successor to these two telescopes. And on top of that, when you talk about its objectives, because it's the biggest telescope ever, it can see very far distance. And when you look and consider the idea of astronomical distances, we use the unit light years for that. And light year is simply not just we are looking far in the universe, but you are also looking that much back in time. So if something is 1 light year far, it is also giving us the information that how the universe would have appeared 1 year ago. So the bigger the telescope we built, farther back in time we can see. So James Webb Space Telescope, it is believed that it can see the universe right after 100 million years of Big Bang, right when the dark ages ended and the first visible light in the universe would have originated. So the recent images captured by James Webb Space Telescope, it also showcases the same ideas that it is able to capture those images which were released from the satellites, which were released from the galaxies almost 100 or 200 million years right after the Big Bang. So that holds the very important key to understand how this universe was created, how this universe came into existence, or how far we can verify things like Big Bang, cosmic inflation theory and such things. So this question, I believe that this question can be addressed from many point of view. In fact, the last point in the question, it says that how does it impact or influence the human race? So that is something which becomes a very subjective part. If I would want to write down things on human race, then there are a lot of things that James Webb Space Telescope can help us answer. Like it can help us to identify how galaxies are formed. So how our Milky Way must have been formed, we can find those answers. It can help us to identify how the stellar nebulas eventually convert into an actual star, and how the actual star eventually gives birth to a planetary system. So we can understand how our planetary system must have been formed. Then we can see some very difficult objects which are rather very difficult to see, like black holes. We can see the accretion disk around the black hole. We may be able to observe quasars, which are the brightest objects in the universe. So these are the things which have always fascinated humans. So human race because this is something which I think every person would have thought at randomly, because the moment when you sit under the sun, under the night sky, you get that feeling of transcendence, that how small we are and how big this universe is. So the questions that it can answer are limitless, I would say. And lastly, space always fascinates everyone. There are always so many events that keeps happening which we have never realized before, so space is always full of surprises. So James Webb Space Telescope will be open to a lot of surprises in future, I believe.
And I think we have seen a lot of talks about space tourism, and we also talked about colonization of Mars as well.
True.
Elon Musk has highlighted this point. Jeff Bezos has connected space tourism as well. So when we look at this aspect, it seems that space is the next big thing in that sense.
And I this is my very honest suggestion, that students should not be ignoring space. I believe that it should be treated as a next big sector itself, and all the dimension of space can be asked in UPSC now. If James Webb Space Telescope can be asked, then the next big thing could be space tourism. They can relate space tourism with economics, they can relate space tourism with biology, with the effect of life forms. So there is a possibility of space colonization, these kind of things. Space colonization can be related with international relations. So paper 3 itself is a very dynamic paper, and there is a lot of aspect that IR, economics, science, they all will intertwine together eventually, sir.
So this brings me to the third important question of our discussion. And whenever we look at any topic in UPSC mains, we say that the topic is interdisciplinary nature. And we have also seen the similar aspect in the science and technology topic as well. So to what extent this particular topic was interdisciplinary according to you?
Sir, this entire paper, I believe, is a perfect example of interdisciplinary approach. Like we have been telling students all the time that write in multiple dimensions, try to cover more dimensions. This question becomes a very good example. This question paper itself becomes a very good example of how to cover multiple dimensions. Like I was particularly impressed, like off camera when we were talking, we were talking about that how this question of climate change approach was asked from the IR perspective.
Yes.
So that is obviously one way. Then one question that fascinates me is about the subsidies shifting from fossil fuels to renewable energy.
Yes.
Now this is one area where energy technology, I normally cover about the technical aspect, but we all know that energy itself is an economic sector always. So this question paper covers all the dimensions that we have been talking to the students all the time. We have been telling students that how widely we should take up the approach of civil service exams. And I was particularly intrigued by this question on the possibilities that how far India can achieve its zero carbon or its Panchamrit commitment by 2050 and the global commitment that we have by 2030. So I personally believe that UPSC is exploring this domain, and particularly from the area of environment ecology, and they are trying to connect it with economics at times, they're trying to connect it with science and tech at the same time, and also with international relations now. So I believe that this particular question paper gives a very good angle of creativity to a student. If they have read all the subjects, then they can very creatively write an answer. And this is where the students have to be very cautious next time, that they cannot ignore these dimensions now. So even when you are reading James Webb, there can be a possibility that they can relate, if something significant happens eventually, they can relate James Webb with possibilities of international relations, space colonization.
Great.
So that is obviously a possibility, I believe. So interdisciplinary approach is always the key, I believe, in civil services, and this is a very good example for it. So
I think the valuable inputs that you have shared must have actually excited a lot of students to actually prepare better for next year. And I think once we put the knowledge of these papers in terms of what UPSC is asking, then students get a lot of direction and flow in terms of what to expect in future as well. And this paper actually reflects this approach very well. Isn't it, sir?
True, sir. Exactly. This shows that where the government is, where the world is thinking now. See, UPSC, I always say this in the class, it is always the mirror of the future, right? And paper 3 itself is a very good example that where the future lies. So this is a very good example that UPSC has acknowledged this thing that, environment is the next important sector. It should be treated as an important part, and every other discipline intertwines with the environment now. And this question paper shows that science is not exclusive anymore. Ecology is not exclusive anymore. Without the right policy, without the right market support, technology can never bring a difference.
Of course.
So this question shows that how intertwined the things are, and we should keep expecting similar type of question papers in future as well, because as more and more of these challenges keeps coming in, as more and more innovations keeps happening, the world will eventually turn out to be a small place, I would say.
Great, sir. Great. Thank you for sharing all this knowledge with us, and I think students will be greatly benefited by this. And I know that you have done exceptional hard work in creating great quality content. I hope that all the students of ours will score top ranks, and then definitely we will again celebrate their success.
Sir. True. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So this was Akshay sir, who is sharing his knowledge about the paper of paper GS Paper 3, especially from the perspective of science and technology. We will be bringing more such sessions for a similar topic so that we complete the entire knowledge for science and technology. For this, what you have to do, you have to like our videos, you have to share our videos, you have to comment our videos, and you also have to subscribe to our channel. So from the entire team of RAU'S, we wish you all the best. See you next time.